Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Friday, October 9th, 2020. Hope everyone had a great week. I want to check out our space weather first. Right now, our solar wind speeds are quiet, 304.3 kilometers per second with a density of 3.1. And right now, we are spotless for the time being. However, that could change very quickly. We have two small areas of interest right now. And according to SPACEWEATHER.com, two new sunspots are emerging in the sun's southern hemisphere. Both are small but growing rapidly. Yesterday, these became an area of interest. Nothing really official yet, but today they are acknowledging that these are growing rapidly. So just like that, we might have two sunspots and 13 days in a row without sunspots. We have broken the threshold of 200 once again. And I want to correct myself. We were talking about sunspot and spotless days in the last minimum, and I misquoted. I was comparing 2010 to 2020. And what I should be doing is we'll have to wait another year, 2021, before we can compare to 2010. So 2009 lines up with 2020. Now, you're saying to yourself, 260 days in 2009, a lot less spotless days. Well, not really. If you look at the total amount of spotless days in this minimum, we definitely had a lot. We had a lot more days without sunspots. So I misspoke on the 2010 correlation to 2020. 2010 will have to be compared to 2021. You have to go off of the 2009, 11 years from that. So you see right there, 260 days without sunspots. And then 2008, it peaked at 268. Well, our peak was at 281. And then in 2007, it was 152. And in 2018, it was 221. So we had 50, actually 70 more spotless days at that point. So as we can continue to monitor this cycle right now, we are starting to see signs that we could see some more activity on the horizon. Possibly. We'll check that out here in a minute. Our cosmic radiation dosage has dropped a little bit since our last broadcast. It's 9.6%, which is still high. And that's a 7-day change of 0.5%. No advisories or anything to look out for. KP's at a 0 with a 24-hour max of 1. But we don't have that signature of the coronal hole Earth facing when we have these kind of conditions. That's when we know for sure. Now, we do have some seismic activity to talk about today, but nothing too crazy. Our TCI sitting at 4.56, still cold. The record is 2.05. I think that window is closing as far as if we're going to see record-breaking TCI temperature readings. And at this point, we are going to be inclining towards the week max here in solar cycle 25. And speaking of solar cycle 25, I saw a article on What's Up With That, and it was talking about the updated prediction for solar cycle 25. And it was a little bit higher. I was surprised to see that. And the only reason why I was surprised to see that is what we had just heard from NASA and NOAA just a few days ago, about how we can tell how a cycle is going to behave in the beginning. In other words, if sunspots appear and continue to appear and stay strong and emerge and continue to incline each year, we know we're going to have a normal to strong cycle. But the slower the beginning of the cycle is, and the longer it takes to get going, is usually a sign of a weak cycle ahead. And we are in October. This cycle, technically, I think they said began in July. We had a couple of small sunspots between July and August, and then we went blank for 35 days, and now we're sitting on a 13-day streak without sunspots. That is being threatened right now. As you see those two bright regions there, they're both directly Earth-facing right now. And then just beyond the eastern limb, we have another area of interest as well. Let's go ahead and zoom in on that real quick. Talking about this right here, this is about to emerge on the eastern limb. Possibility of a sunspot. If we compare them to these two regions, as long as they possess the necessary elements, we could have, possibly now, we've gone 48 days without sunspots in a very short time, to possibly looking at 3 numbered sunspots in one day. Wouldn't that be something? But we are at the beginning of this cycle, so really we should already be expecting this kind of activity. It should have already happened. The fact that we're seeing a delay to it leads me to believe that this is a very weak cycle, like we predicted in the first place. And time will tell. All right, let's move on. Unusually intense record storm knocks power out to over 200,000 customers in the capital region here in New York. This was on October 7th, 2020, leaving more than 200,000 customers without power. And it did kill at least 2 people. Both the fatalities were related to trees falling. One was a golfer. He was in his golf cart. And unfortunately, another one was a driver in their vehicle. Winds at 68 miles an hour, the highest daily gust for the month of October, according to the National Weather Service in Albany. This now ranks as one of the strongest severe weather events for 2020. Something else. Now, Mari and I live in the capital region, upstate. So this was just south of us. Now, it got dark. We saw some big clouds. We got some big time rain. But we didn't get the wind that we got down here south of us, for sure. But it says here, according to National Grid, the region has not experienced outages this widespread in more than a decade. The last time we would have seen 200,000 plus customers out, and that widespread damage probably was back in 2008 with the ice storm. This was an intense storm. We've been having crews work throughout the night, and they'll continue to be working under these challenging conditions. In an update posted on Thursday, October 8th, the National Grid said that 2,000 workers continue to make progress after the storm. So far, the service has been restored to almost 135,000 customers. But this has been a year of interest for this particular region. I've only lived up here going on 3 years now, but this was definitely the year of stronger storms in the spring. The snow's consistent. The difference is one year we got it all really quick, and then last year it kind of came late but stuck around because it was cold. But the storms this year, the thunderstorms, the tornadoes, the weather has definitely jumped up a notch or two. Now, I know a lot of people out there will tell you that this is all global warming's fault. But if you follow the science of solar cycles and understand what is contributing to these storms, it has nothing to do with rising temperatures or fewer polar bears or anything like that at all. Solar cycles are complex. This is not an easy topic to just give someone a quick 5-minute breakdown. I mean, really, if you want to be vague, just tell people it's a solar cycle and our climate changes when these cycles change. And every so often, these cycles bring a really extreme weather phenomenon for a period of time that affects, crops, livestock, and of course, human famine. And I always sit and think about when I see these fake news headlines about man-made global warming. And they're hijacking these events, basically. All these events that we're seeing, the hurricanes, the snows, the historic floods, all of it, earthquakes. They're saying it's your fault. What we're saying is that this is deeper than a man-contributed situation. This is nature. This is the sun's natural pattern. And if you don't think the sun doesn't have anything to do with climate change, that's kind of silly. I always state the obvious. What happens when the sun goes down? And the deeper in the night we get, it gets chilly, don't it? 20, 30 degree drop. So, you know, if the temperature can be affected that quickly just by lack of sun, imagine what the climate reacts to when it's getting less output from the sun, more cloud coverage, less sun hitting the asphalt, the pavement, the ground, whatever you want to call it, less warming, more flooding, moisture causes cooling. Again, time will tell. And as we continue to go over these news articles, just know everything that we go over on this channel when we're doing these news articles, they are related to the science of grand solar minimum and the cycles and how they affect Earth, climates, and seismic activity. This one here, 6.3 earthquake hits Papua New Guinea. Now, I can't sit here and say that I can prove 100% every single earthquake that we get is because something happened with the sun. This is another. I am not an expert in this category. I just report on this. But there is correlations, and there are people out there who know how to forecast earthquakes. There are people that can get really precise. I am just that. I'm in the ballpark type of predictor, if anything. I never claim to be an expert. But I do know, and I've seen enough evidence that shows the sun does have an effect on seismic and volcanic activity. And we are continuing to see strong minimum conditions. Strong earthquake registered by the USGS as a M63 hit PNG at 7:35 UTC on October 8th, 2020. The agency is reporting a depth of 64 miles. The EMSC is reporting at also 6.3, and the depth of that is around 69 miles. At this point, there was no as far as deaths or major injuries. It's too early to tell at this point, but there have not been any reports of injuries or destruction at this time. Probably some minor issues, but at this point, we just don't have enough information to report one way or the other. But it doesn't appear to be anything life-threatening at this time. And a couple of volcanoes getting going here in Guatemala. Earlier in the week, they were talking about Fuego. Now, increased activity at Pacaya volcano in Guatemala. Period of increased volcanic activity started in Pacaya's volcano on Thursday, October 8th, 2020, with an intense strombolian activity injecting volcanic material up to only 984 feet. Not that big of a eruption, but just mentioning these slight awakenings here. It's a highly active volcano with frequent lava flows and strombolian explosions originating in the McKinney crater. Or the McKinney crater, I should say. So Fuego, now Pacaya, and also talking quickly, strong strombolian activity and significant ash emissions at Etna in Italy. Explosive activity at Etna volcano increased October 7, 2020, with the first eruption at 6:35 UTC by significant ash emissions. And this one's a little higher, 15,000 feet. For those of you who are new to this topic, 15,000 feet is nothing significant. Impressive of its own, but nothing significant. You got to start worrying about events that go 55,000 feet or higher. The year without a summer was caused by Mount Tambora. It had an ash plume cloud of 122,000 feet, and it produced the following summer what they called a year without a summer in the northeastern part of the United States. So that is how volcanoes can contribute to cooling the climate as well. And I almost feel like when you have a lot of them going off 30, 40, 50,000 feet at a time, your occasional 60,000 feet, over time, the more that are doing that, the more the atmosphere is also being filled with these particles and interacting with highly charged particles, creating cloud nucleation, becoming super magnets for water droplets to become these massive amount of rain and snowstorms that we see, like the one that in Storm Alex that hit France, parts 19 inches of rain in 24 hours. That's almost an inch an hour. That's because of the saturation of highly charged particles interacting with our water droplets and particles in the atmosphere and creating these magnificent record-breaking storms. Not what Al Gore says. Anyway, so just kind of wanted to clear that up. When we talk about volcanoes and earthquake, and we talk about climate as well, volcanoes, earthquake, they all affect the climate. And it's all natural, and it's all triggered by the sun. Sorry if that's inconvenient. And you want a book about facts? Well, I'll tell you what, there's a new one out. And this is like the super group of authors when it comes to books. You've got Patrick Moore, Dr. Roy Spencer, and Richard Lindzen of MIT in technology. These guys, and there's many more scientists, but what this book is about is climate change, the facts. 2020 is a definitive guide to the latest international research and analysis on climate change science and policy. 20 experts in the field from across 5 countries have written original contributions on the key issues of scientific, political, and public debate about climate change. What do they talk about? Well, first, I want to back up a little bit too, because this book has signatures from more than 800 prominent scientists from all over the world that are putting their name behind this, and this deserves a look. So the book is called The Facts, 2020, Climate Change. Some of the issues addressed in chapters in climate change, The Facts 2020, include the extent and variability of sea level change. Very important. Very important because when we were told that sea level rise was going to be catastrophic and that the East Coast would disappear because of it by 2017, 2025, something like that. Former President Barack Obama purchased, I believe it was a $2 million mansion less than a mile away from the coast of the ocean. And I hate to, rain on your parade here, folks, but Barack Obama started this whole climate emergency stuff in the last part of his second term. And he led the pack with that rhetoric that sea level rise and the hurricanes are going to destroy the East Coast. We're not going to recognize them anymore. And yet he goes out just a couple years ago and buys him a mansion that's less than a mile away from the coast of the ocean. Maybe closer than that, maybe a half mile. Nonetheless, he's got oceanfront near him. But he was telling everyone just a couple of years ago that we are going to witness the disappearance of the East Coast, unless it's going to happen 100 years from now where we're not going to be here. This book also goes over the historical record of temperature and ice coverage in the Antarctic, the impact of climate change on polar bear populations. Gregory Whitstone, I believe that's his name. And I got to mention this because I'm a little upset that this happened on such a great Gregory Wrightstone. I apologize. My apologies. Author, speaker, and just a climate researcher. And he had posted something the other day that was quite shocking. He posted a "What's up with that" article, and there was a meme in the article that says when Al Gore was born, and there were only 7,000 polar bears when Al Gore was born. Today, only 30,000 remain. He shared that article with that meme on LinkedIn and was restricted from posting after that article. Now, again, that's why this book's important. The facts, 2020. The facts. They're going to tell you the same thing in this book, that our polar bear population is thriving by 400%. It's increased. It's bigger. Now, I show the truth here in this channel. And let's talk about sea ice. It's not favorable right now for those of us who do this topic. I get it. In fact, 2020 is beginning to be questionable for almost near record low ice growth so far. And now it just began. Now we just came out of the bottom of it. So we're going to see more ice growth, obviously, as the months and days go by. Temperatures continue to drop. Winter is, thanks to Judah Cohen pointing out that the Siberian snow extent is becoming wider now. It's picking up. It had a slow start, but it's actually rapidly covering quite nicely. So we will continue to see that increase, and I'm sure we'll see the increase of ice in the Arctic. But one could argue that we have an ice issue here. In May and April, we had, now this is insane. Think about this for a minute. March, April, and May, we were in a lockdown industrially all over the world. So less man-made emissions went into the atmosphere for 3 months by a significant amount, okay? And we still had record melt in the Arctic. Again, how many channels are telling you the truth about this? But this is important to know because we'll see a rebound as we are right now. We're above the minimum record, but we were breaking the record in ice melt and growth during the months of the shutdowns. So I just wanted to point this out because this book here goes over a lot of good facts. The manipulation on temperature data by the Bureau of Meteorology, another topic that this book covers. Also talking about the fires. And of course, this is probably the political part of the book, the prevalence of noble cause, corruption, and climate science. Guys, this is not an easy topic. I've been doing this for a little while now, and it's a constant uphill battle. Constant uphill battle. Being censored, articles being removed by Facebook, just all kinds of stuff. YouTube has been better lately, but we had a really bad, you talk about the message not getting out. constantly getting the global warming banners on our videos. Thankfully, we don't see those anymore. But, of course, I'll probably put one on now because I mentioned it. But I highly recommend this book, Climate Change, The Facts 2020, because there is a lot about climate science that has changed over the past 15 years. New discoveries, new research, and an improved research. The fact that you have Dr. Patrick Moore, Dr. Roy Spencer, and then, of course, Richard Lindzen. Again, that's the super group of scientists that you would want to write a book about climate change. And I can tell you right now, Dr. Roy Spencer is a very neutral individual. He is not Democrat, Republican. He doesn't do this for the political part of this. He is 100% all natural science. So it doesn't matter to Roy if we're warming or cooling. This is what Roy would be doing anyway. Again, impressive authors, good book. I recommend everyone to pick it up and give it a read. And, you know, I wanted to show the ice just to show you how low it is. And another point that this period of time right in here, unfortunately, record low growth of ice during a period of time that didn't see man-made emissions. So you can't blame man for lack of contribution to the carbon footprint once it was removed and still warming temperatures. Or at this point, struggling ice growth. So to be continued, because we got a lot to go over. You know, fall just started, and the latest GFS forecast shows some questionable things. But before we get into that, let's talk about our current situation, which is Hurricane Delta. Now, Delta was a Category 3. It is weakening as it's making landfall, thankfully. I don't think anybody wants to deal with any more strong storms. And the fact that we have another hurricane that is making landfall in the same area. And what I mean by that, Cameron, Louisiana.
A look at Cypremort Point, Louisiana, where a lot of people love to go fishing and crabbing, but if you stay out there too long at this point, you're going to be swimming with those fishes. That water is definitely coming.
See, I would have said sea. You're swimming with those fishes. Sea. Anyway, Cameron and Pecan Island are the areas of projected landfall. We are expecting landfall in the next couple of hours. Looking at the current rain band, Lake Charles being affected, Shreveport, you'll get into some showers. Houston, out of the woods. This storm right now, and I'll give you the update, and I apologize, the ticker is probably wrong because this update just happened. But we are looking at winds at 100 miles an hour. That's down from 105. Is still moving north-northeast at 14 miles per hour. Taking a look at some wind gust forecasts for this storm. Lake Charles, 75 and up between 5 and 8 p.m. That'll be wrapping up here, and then we'll start to see winds to diminish 50 to 60 miles per hour by Friday late evening, and then early Saturday morning, 25 to 30 miles per hour. Lafayette, Louisiana, you're going to see your highest winds between now and 11 p.m., 60 to 75 miles per hour. Beaumont, Texas, you're out of the woods, but still 50 to 60 mile an hour wind gusts is still pretty high, but you're not looking at some of the winds that we were having earlier. Power outages all over between Lake Charles, Cameron, Lafayette, and Alexandria, Louisiana. Those are going to be the widespread areas. The likely power outages are still going to be on the western side of Louisiana, up near Monroe. Shreveport also has a chance, looking at places like Baton Rouge and Morgan City, minor possibilities. Jackson, Mississippi, and Memphis, Tennessee also could see some possible power outages from this. Now, The rain, what are we talking about through Sunday? And it looks like from Lake Charles all the way into, I'd say, northwestern Mississippi, we're looking at a solid 3 to 5 inches with local areas possibly between 8 to 12 inches of rain. Kind of a good news on that is we don't need a slow-moving storm right now. So this storm moving at 14 miles an hour is not going to be a super soaker, but it is going to bring winds. It's going to bring tornadoes, and that's the unfortunate part. Tonight is going to be a night to kind of keep an eye on things. We're already down Doppler radars near Morgan City from Hurricane Laura. So this is going to be a tricky night for these folks when it comes to tornado and development of tornadoes. Satellite, yes, but they don't have that capability on the Doppler radars. Pick it up right away on the ground. Again, those were damaged from Laura. Several other areas also will be facing these challenges tonight, but we are looking at possible severe thunderstorm for Baton Rouge, Morgan City, New Orleans, Biloxi, Mississippi, possible for severe weather in Jackson, Hattiesburg, and Mobile, Alabama. This thing is taking a hard right, folks. It's going north-northeast, 14 miles per hour. We're talking about winds right now at 100 miles per hour. The central pressure on this is 966 millibars. So, and this storm was a Cat 2. It still is a Cat 2, but it will be dropping the further inland it goes, according to forecasters. So this is hopefully a quick, and the second storm to come in through this area within 6 weeks is just impressive. And hopefully this storm is not a big deal and things can get back to some kind of a normality down there. But again, a lot of these people down in this area are still trying to get their homes fixed from Laura. We're not even fixed down there yet from that. So we'll keep you updated on this storm. We're expecting a storm surge of around 7 to 11 feet right in the areas of Cameron and what did I say, Lake Peckin? Yeah, in that area. Peckin Island, I'm sorry. They're expecting 7 to 11 feet of storm surge in that area, and I'll kind of point that out real quick. That's going to be the worst of it. Storm surge right between here and here. We're talking 7 to 11 feet of storm surge. On top of the rain, like I said, possibility of 6 inches on the coast, maybe a little more. But overall, because it's quick moving, this could be a lot worse if this thing had slowed down, and thankfully is continuing to weaken as we go along here. All right, let's go over to our GFS update. Now, I want to go over this real fast. First, let me see if I can get the 18Z, because I don't like using the 12Z, but there's some here. Okay, so we do have an update. Good. So let's take a look at that. We already talked about Hurricane Delta, and that's going to move through Tennessee Valley into the Ohio Valley. Pennsylvania, you'll see the moisture from this. New York, even light and moderate, it'll be off by the early part of next week, October 13th, Tuesday, and another system behind that for the Northeast. And then we start to see a little bit different temperature pattern here in the Northeast. October 15th, slowly diving in as colder air coming in from the north, Canada, and then we start to see some lake effect action for snow on western New York, Erie, PA, October 17th, in the northern part of North Country of the New York area. That'll be our first, right now, it stands to be the first indication that snow will be in parts of western New York and North Country, New York by next weekend. More colder air filtering in, things cool off, and check out that storm system here in Montana. Now, this is on the 19th. This is about as far as I can say is reliable, but we're starting to notice that this colder air is pushing down further south. and it keeps continuing to be progressing forward as we go through this GFS. Now, heavy snow, these isobars are tight. This could be a pretty powerful storm here. That's as far as GFS is going to let me go, which was a lot farther than earlier. That thing is turning into something, and I'm talking about this. We could be looking at our first major winter storm by the 20th of October. And let's take a look at the 12Z, because the 12Z will show us a little bit farther. So here we are on the 12Z doesn't even show that storm here, but it is consistent with some kind of a system in the Northeast, possibly bringing some snow in the North Country of New York, and then another consistent batch of snow after that in the Northeast, some ice forming here in the back, and I think here at the end on the 24th, 25th, I think this particular storm system is what we're probably looking at on the 12Z. It is indicating a pretty big system here. So winter might be here a little earlier, unfortunately, but I don't know. This is still a long way out, and I've always said this 6-7 days is as far as it should go before you take it any further. GFS outlook temperature is nice right now. A little bit of a cool down coming here, and then a brief warm up by Tuesday, and then more cooler air moving into the United States. By mid-October, we see a lot more blue, and that warmth is staying in the far south. Freezing temperatures hitting the lower 48 in the northern plains and the Great Lakes, and they become a little bit more relevant here as we get to Sunday, October 18th. Look at that. So the temperatures are starting to cool down just nicely, and some really cold Arctic air forces its way in. Look at that, by October 18th, Monday. So this is where that storm system is on the 12Z. And right now, it's got a pretty decent looking signature to it. But look at that. Darker blues and purples are starting to infiltrate Canada and moving further south by the end of the month. We will see a quick ridge and fridge. What is that? Ridge and fridge. Well, that's when you have a bunch of cold air pushing in from the north, and what it does is it pushes all this warmth and gathers it up and bottles it up. It's going to go all the way up the East Coast, so this cold air will continue to push through. But the thing that concerns me, or not concerns me, but the heat is weaker down here in the south, so I'm not sure if this goes all the way up to the Northeast, but we will see some brief warmer temperatures in the Northeast by the end of October. But it's just fool's gold when it comes to summer warmth, because I have a pretty good feeling this cold blob here is going to bring its way in pretty quickly. So the ridge, bringing the warm temperatures, the cold air on the back end of it, that's the fridge, ridge and fridge. Copyrighted by probably Joe Bastardi, but hey, I like the term too. I'll give him credit. Other than that, guys, that's all I have for tonight on this Grand Solar Minimum update. We will break through live with any breaking news if we need to with Delta. Right now, it is still a Cat 2 with winds of 100 miles per hour, gusts right around 115. Pressure is sitting at 966 millibars, moving 14 miles per hour north-northeast. Until next time, folks, we hope everyone has a great weekend. Actually, you know what? I want to say a couple of shout-outs real quick. Knife Collector, good to see you out there. Matt Bros, I saw him earlier as well. Jesse Vorwalls, how you doing? Good to see you. Edward Thompson, long time no see. Ben, thanks for stopping by. And also
BDM.
BDM?
Yeah, that's how you say his name down there. BDM. That's the way we say it now.
BD.
I'd also like to welcome David on board. He says he's a veteran campaigner against pseudoscience of CO2. He's become a new YouTube paid subscriber with us. And Edward Thompson, the way the icon works through the YouTube chat is with the YouTube subscribed. Like, that comes with the YouTube paid subscription. I'm not sure if YouTube's added a way to integrate Patreon with that or not. But I will check and look into that. And then some people were asking for about T-shirts and stuff. They're still there, Jake.
Yes, we have T-shirts. If you go to, actually here, the left of my screen, but also on our YouTube channel.
And Knife Collector, thank you for the super chat.
Oh, the donation. Yes, thank you very much, Knife Collector. Very, very much appreciated. But if you guys do appreciate our work, we do have a great collection of shirts, all designed by Mari and myself. Mostly Mari. I might have had a couple of ideas, but not really. Mari does all the hard work here. But check us out. Our Teespring link is in our video description here on the channel. That's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you all once again for tuning in to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. We'll be back as soon as we can. Hopefully, well, actually, our next scheduled broadcast will be Monday night. And if any news is breaking over the weekend, you'll see us then as well. Until next time, everybody be safe. We'll talk soon.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.